Horror fans, I'm back with my bros again. Today we're diving into another classic horror flick. A girl suddenly realizes the woman in front of her isn't her real mother. This creepy woman drinks massive amounts of milk every day, always eats thick soup stewed with chicken blood, and even goes on dates with different men every night. But by the next day, all those guys just vanish without a trace. That night, the girl opens the bathroom door and discovers her mother's secret. What the hell is really going on? We won't waste any more words. Let's get right into it. Vira and Dino are a brother and sister pair. Today, they move house together with their mother. A few years ago, after their father left, their mother completely changed her personality. She saw every psychologist but showed no improvement. In the end, their mother just couldn't let go of the past. She couldn't forget, and finally decided to move with the two siblings to get away from it all. Their uncle who came to pick them up says he'll show them around the rooms. At that moment, Vera turns her head and sees a white cat. Instantly, she remembers something from when she was little in the park. She once saw a white cat eating its own kittens. She hurriedly called out. After their mother gently comforted her, she lifted her hand and picked up a stone. When Vera looked back again, that white cat had already vanished. Late at night, the house suddenly loses power. Bored Dino wants to make a horror channel documentary. He drags his sister along to explore a nearby abandoned house. To gather footage, in the end, they choose to perform under a big tree.
Aku ngerasa ada sesuatu yang sembunyi di balik pohon ini.
On the way, Dino accidentally gets scratched by a stray cat. The two have no choice but to head home first to treat the wound. When Yanti sees the wound, she suddenly grabs Dino's hand, lowers her head, and directly sucks on the wound. After snapping out of it, she looks completely panicked and hurriedly chases the brother and sister upstairs, while she stands frozen in place, totally at a loss. The siblings are already used to their mother's erratic behavior, so they don't think much of it. The next day, the two go out on the street to hand out flyers for their mother's hair salon, but passers-by keep ignoring them. Yanti sees this and personally approaches.
Saya lagi buka salon.
Salon?
Coba dilihat-lihat dulu ya, treatmentnya.
The two are totally shocked. Their mother used to be so withdrawn and quiet, but overnight she turned into a social butterfly. Soon the first customer arrives. Then more and more keep coming, pouring in one after another. This hair salon is in a remote location, with very few people passing by. Vera has no idea what method her mother used to attract so many customers. But what shocks her even more is her mother's complete transformation. After closing the shop, Vira sees a sanitary pad on the table, thinking it's her mother's, and is about to take it back to the room, when she realizes her mother isn't in the house. She turns and sees Yanti in the bathroom humming a song while showering. Looking especially relaxed, Vera asks her mother if her period came again. After all, at her age, she should have already gone through menopause. But Yanti doesn't respond. She just tells her to leave the sanitary pad on the table. Vera has no choice but to do as told. The next day, Vera goes downstairs and finds the hair salon packed with people. Every customer seems magically drawn to her mother, obsessed. Vera tells Dino about this eerie scene, but Dino doesn't care at all. He's excitedly dragging her to keep shooting horror videos. That night, Dino brings Vira to a newly discovered haunted house. But the moment they step inside, Vera thinks it's just another one of her brother's pranks. She steps forward to check. But there's no one there. Or is that really the case? Suddenly a woman appears. She charges straight toward Vera. Vira runs desperately. She trips and falls to the ground. That's when she finally sees clearly who the woman is. It's her own mother. Yanti lets out a terrifying laugh. The next second, her face turns deadly serious. She orders the siblings to go home and sleep immediately.
Aku pipis dikit.
Both of them are scared out of their wits. Their mother, who used to be quiet, gloomy, and withdrawn, has somehow become strange and unhinged. Her behavior is completely abnormal. It's as if something has possessed her. Late-night dinner is still chicken soup. Yanti doesn't touch a single bite. She just stares at the white cat outside the window with a creepy half-smile. The next day, Vera wakes up from her nap. She finds her mother's phone left in her room. She goes out looking everywhere, but there's no sign of Yanti. Turning her head, she spots a shadow moving at the kitchen window, and the sound of chopping meat echoes. Vera walks into the kitchen. She sees a disheveled woman chopping a chicken. When she steps closer into the kitchen again, everything is spotlessly clean. No one is there. Now she's completely unable to tell if it's a hallucination or reality. She just assumes it's a hallucination from too much stress. She doesn't mention it to anyone. Late at night, the house loses power again. Dino is too hot to fall asleep. He decides to crash in the living room for the night, but he sees the balcony door opening and closing on its own repeatedly, as if something invisible keeps pushing and pulling it. Dino walks toward the balcony. He notices a figure standing under the streetlight in the distance. Since he isn't wearing his glasses, his vision is blurry. He can't make out the face at all. And right at that moment, Yanti suddenly appears behind him. She floats toward Dino like a ghost. He is terrified out of his mind. He quickly explains that he's too hot and was just going to sleep in the living room. Yanti remains expressionless. She turns on the light. Dino lowers his guard. He hurries back to his room and shuts the door. But the instant he closes it, Yanti slams her hand against the door to stop it.
Kamu nggak mau tidur sama ibu aja?
Nggak usah, Bu.
The next day, Yanti takes Dino to the eyewear store for new glasses. Vera notices at the end that every man who passes by is drawn into the store by their mother's allure. Sure enough, even the store owner falls deeply under her spell. That night, Yanti puts on an elegant dress and prepares to go out on a date with the eyewear store owner. Vera accidentally glimpses her mother's chest and sees an unfamiliar tattoo there. She quickly approaches to ask about it, but Yanti acts very strangely, clearly trying to avoid the topic. She hurriedly pulls up her collar to cover the tattoo. At that moment, the doorbell rings. It's the eyewear store owner coming to pick her up. Yanti has to leave in a hurry. It isn't until the next morning that Yanti finally returns home. There are still fresh traces of blood at the corner of her mouth. From then on, Yanti becomes even more unrestrained. Male customers at the hair salon, whether married or not, all end up having a one-night stand with her. But none of those men ever show up again the next day. That night, Vera can't hold back anymore. She decides to secretly find out what her mother does at night. She slowly heads downstairs, but she finds Yanti talking to herself in front of the mirror, and the reflection in the mirror doesn't even look like her mother. Suddenly, the woman in the mirror looks up. She stares straight at Vera with wide-open eyes. At the same time, Yanti turns her head back. The staircase is already empty. Vera is so frightened she runs back to bed and pretends to be asleep. Yanti opens the door and approaches Vera. She checks to make sure she's really sleeping. After watching, she quietly left. Is that really what happened? Vera gathered her courage and turned over. But to her horror, she realized her mother hadn't left at all. Yanti stood motionless, staring straight at her. The two of them just locked eyes in silence. The atmosphere felt painfully awkward. Suddenly, Yanti bent down and lay beside Vera. She sniffed Vera's scent like a predator sizing up its prey. Then she asked quietly,
Kamu sayang ibu kan?
Before Vera could answer, Yanti quickly left the room. The next day, it wasn't until dinner time that Dino finally came back from outside. But he was wearing those old glasses again. Yanti asked why he wasn't wearing the new pair. Dino answered irritably that he broke them. He said whatever, he'd just get the glasses shop owner to fix them again. You know, one of your boyfriends. Hearing this, Yanti's expression changed completely. She grabbed a stool and sat to the side, staring at Dino with a deadly serious look. Then she yanked his hair and forced the milk tea down his throat. She kept going until he was nearly choking. Only then did she let go. The violent outburst terrified both siblings, and they ran away in panic. That night, Vira went to find their uncle for help. But then she saw Yanti coming out of the room. Yanti sincerely apologized to Vera, saying she had just been under too much stress and lost control. Their uncle chimed in, saying he would take Yanti to see the psychologist again the next day. Vera had no choice but to accept it. The next day, their uncle brought Yanti back after the appointment. The psychologist had seen her. Vira quickly asked how it went, but their uncle kept avoiding the question. That night, Vira witnessed a sight she would never forget. Yanti was in the bathroom, completely naked, pouring chicken blood straight into her own mouth. Seeing this, Vira completely panicked. She knew they couldn't wait any longer. She immediately took her brother to find the psychologist and asked for the real examination results about their mother. But the doctor's answer left them both stunned. The last time I saw your mother was over a year ago. Vira suddenly understood everything. She immediately confronted their uncle and started hitting and kicking him. She accused him of being a liar, certain he was hiding something. With the truth coming out, their uncle finally stopped hiding it. He confessed everything to the siblings. It turns out after their father left, Yanti suffered a complete mental breakdown. They visited every doctor, tried every medication, nothing worked. With no options left, she turned to a witch doctor. A last desperate attempt. Surprisingly, after the witch doctor's diagnosis, Yanti improved a lot. But after moving houses, her condition suddenly worsened dramatically. Her behavior became increasingly bizarre. When they came back home, Yanti herself admitted she needed special rituals to stay sane. If her body grew weak, some kind of spirit would take over her body. With no other choice, everyone turned to the sorcerer again, hoping to exorcise the evil entity attached to Yanti. But the sorcerer explained that two personalities coexist inside Yanti. One is a woman full of resentment and hatred. The other is a loving mother who deeply cares for her children. These two personalities clash violently, tearing at each other. So the sorcerer implanted something inside her body to balance the personalities. The price is that every day she must perform a sacrifice, drinking chicken blood. At that moment, Yanti suddenly spoke up, saying she accidentally tasted Dino's blood. The sorcerer reacted as if facing a grave threat. She immediately told everyone to stay outside the door, and absolutely not to open it, no matter what sounds they heard. Then she took Yanti into the inner room to begin the ritual. The sorcerer tied Yanti's hands with rope. She then started chanting and performing the spell. A long time passed. Finally, Yanti walked out of the room. Her expression had returned to the gentle, kind look from before. Everyone believed the sorcery had succeeded. Yanti is finally completely cured. Everyone breathes a huge sigh of relief. The group heads back home together. At the dinner table, Yanti promises she'll only get better from here. Vira and Dino finally believe things are turning around for good. They both beg Uncle to stay and live with them. The family will never be separated again. Uncle doesn't refuse. After watching Yanti head upstairs to rest, Uncle suddenly remembers he hasn't said goodbye to the sorcerer yet. But the scene cuts abruptly. The sorcerer is sitting on the ground. Her intestines have already been ripped out. Clearly, Yanti is still not really Yanti. The next day, Vera comes downstairs and sees Yanti making breakfast. But there's no sign of Uncle anywhere. When she asks, Yanti says Uncle had something come up and left early for home. Vera doesn't think much of it. After the meal, Yanti offers to give Dino a haircut, while Vera makes an excuse to go out and gather more video footage. But during the haircut, Dino senses something's terribly wrong. It seems the evil personality has taken over Yanti again. Dino freezes in shock. It's already too late to react. Yanti forces his eyes open and slashes them with the knife right then and there. At the same time, Vera rushes to Uncle's house, only to find the place completely empty. She uses her phone's location tracker and follows it to an abandoned residential area. She calls his number again and follows the ringing phone all the way until upstairs, she sees rows of men's bodies hanging, dried out like jerky suspended in the air, exposed to wind and sun right in front. One corpse is tightly wrapped in white cloth. She pulls it back. It's Uncle's body. He was already dead by then. Vira panics and races back to the hair salon. only to find Dino with his back to her, trembling all over, and Yanti nowhere in sight. When Vira wakes up again, she realizes she's tightly bound in the center of an altar. Dino is sharpening scissors nearby, and Yanti approaches slowly in a blood-soaked red dress. By now, the evil personality has completely taken over Yanti. She orders Dino to pick up the scissors and slit Vira's throat with his own hands. But Dino hesitates and doesn't move. Instead, while Yanti didn't notice, he quietly cuts the ropes binding Vira. Then he lets out a roar, grabs a sharp weapon, and swings it hard at Yanti. Yanti picks up the scissors from the floor and straddles Vira, ready to end her daughter's life herself. Vira is completely confused and looks toward the mirror behind her. The reflection in the mirror overlaps with the gentle mother from her memories. Vira never expected that one sentence from her would awaken the last remnants of Yanti's maternal personality. She fights with every ounce of strength, desperately holding back her own hands, refusing to let the evil inside harm her children. Yanti's body suddenly collapses. The lights go out, then a familiar warm figure quietly sits in front of her. Vira is absolutely certain the person before her is the mother she's longed for, day and night. That's the stone little Yanti used to kill the white cat when she was a child. Back then, she even asked her mother why that white cat would cruelly eat its own kittens.
Vira, dia bukan ibunya.
And that's the end of the story.